Hey guys, welcome back! Robocraft Early Access! This is episode 12, I'm Enigmius, and today we're building a new bot. Now, some people have asked me in the past to do a video in this kind of format where it's basically a build from start to finish. I was a little bit reluctant to do it because it's not the kind of thing that I would necessarily be super eager to watch, but there were enough people who asked about it that I decided to give it a go and see what people's feedback is. If you like this, if it's helpful, and you want me to do more, let me know. If you don't like it, but you could like it if a few things were different, let me know about that too. And if you really just don't like it at all, you can tell me. It's okay. The goal here for this build is we're building my tier 8 walker. I had a tier 7 walker, the itsy bitsy spider that was by no means itsy bitsy. And then I unlocked the tier 8 railguns and found that the spider was a very poor platform for them, just because of the amount of space that they take up. You can see on the front of this, the beginning structure, just that circle for the railgun showing you how much space it needs in order to operate. It's 4 blocks in every direction. Forward, back, left, right, and up, and of course down, it doesn't need any. But you can also see that little angled line from the railgun extending down across the front, showing the depression, how far down the gun can aim. That's one of the things that we'll be hopefully addressing with the structure of the bot, is improving our ability to aim down. Now, I can't take any credit for this idea whatsoever. I've seen them in other matches, I've heard people talking about them, or more specifically read people talking about them. We're going to use the walker legs placed at different elevations in the front and back of the vehicle to tilt the vehicle down, so that as you're walking around, the vehicle has a very pronounced forward tilt, so that if we're peeking over a ridge, the guns can aim down much more easily. In their natural state, in their level position, they will already be aimed down and will have a much better ability to aim down at targets. And also, if we're peeking over a ridge, like if we're stuck to a wall peeking over the top, hopefully we'll be able to present less of our bot while still being able to get our guns to aim at the targets that we need to hit. So that's the goal, using the design to play into the strengths of the railgun, which, albeit heavily limited, are basically, if you can get clean shots on target and then get out of the line of fire, that's pretty much the best strategy that you can hope for. And if I can do that, I'm having fun. You know, I can deal with the other restrictions much easier if I can at least get myself in a good position to get some really sneaky shots on people that weren't expecting it, and then get the hell out of the way before they have a chance to return fire. So this is basically a concept that's evolving as I'm building. Now you can see we've got 3 guns in place now, and they're all happily coexisting together. That was the first thing that I wanted to do, is give myself kind of a skeletal structure where I could place the guns and kind of see what they looked like when they were in a position where they weren't overlapping with one another, because they're so damn large. From there, I can kind of decide what I need in terms of structure to protect the guns as best I possibly can. It's really difficult to have rails on the middle or the back of a vehicle just because of the way that they work. And it's really difficult to have the rails spread apart too far on a vehicle. This is obviously, we're spread apart as far as required based on the size of the guns themselves. But we don't necessarily want rails on the front and rails on the back and rails in the middle, because what I've found in the past when I've tried to do anything similar is you'll be zoomed in on a target trying to get good aim, and you'll fire, and your rail on the side will shoot, and it'll just hit the ground in front of you, because your aim was great if you had fired from the center gun on the front of the vehicle, but from the side, the terrain just wasn't working in your favor, and you wound up wasting a shot. That's the kind of thing that I want to avoid by having these guys positioned as close to one another as I can, and oriented on the vehicle, where the vehicle doesn't have to be as exposed as it would otherwise be if it was just a flat vehicle, so that I can get those clean shots with the least amount of my vehicle exposed as I possibly can, and then scoot down below a hill or a ridge or something like that and wait for my guns to reload. So the goal total is to have 4 guns on this guy, and at the time I was building here, I was thinking a gun in the back and try and pretend in the back of my mind that I knew which order they were going to fire in, so I knew it just wasn't going to work. So we will eventually end up getting a 4th railgun on here that's on the front area. We're going to create an extension to mount it and have it all work nicely with the guns that are already there. So now we've got that initial skeleton, and I'm thinking in terms of how do I protect that? And you can see we've got another row of prisms extending back from the front that serve, the only reason that they're there is to absorb damage before it can get to that line of prisms in the back that are actually supporting the railguns on the back end there. That's the only reason why that new row of prisms is there. And you can see all we're doing now for this whole armor core setup is we're just stacking prisms, right? We can rotate, we can go up, we can go to the side, we can go front, we can go wherever we want with prisms very, very easily once you get into the swing of things. And then we just fill in after the fact with blocks. We put as many blocks into an area as we possibly can to absorb damage. So we're controlling where the damage can go, and we're doing as much as we can to absorb that damage before it gets to something that we don't want to lose. That's the whole concept behind the whole armor core. So now you can see we've got 2 rows of prisms stacked on top of one another. If we cap those off with tetras, that's the chunky football that we highlighted in the first real armor core video. It's that whole thing, and really all we're doing at this point for the next several minutes actually is adding those extra blocks. So rather than force you guys to sit and watch it, we're going to jump, we're going to get, after these blocks have been added, to the next step. So we've added a bunch of extra blocks just for the armor value. That's why I didn't spend a lot of time showing you guys, because you could put them anywhere and it's just to soak extra damage. You can see we're finishing off with a few tetras just kind of beside some of the prisms that we put into place, and again, strictly to absorb damage. Now what we need to be doing is obviously building onto this. We can, as much as it would be fun to just drive something like this into the battlefield, we do have to add some extra things like legs and a driver's seat, I would say would be the bare minimum. And in order to do that, we're taking advantage of kind of like a twin spine idea that I doubt I came up with it. I'm sure other people have done something similar. We're taking 2 armor core spines with a 1 block gap in between them and extending them out from this front section. 1, so there's 2 connection points instead of 1. And 2, because it gives us a kind of a convenient way to strap everything together, where every joint that we have, everything that we attach to this structure has at least like 4 to 8 blocks worth of extra armor that damage has to go through before it can start getting to the narrow sections. These thrusters that we're going to add in the front are to extend the range of our jumps. That's I kind of thought at some point I would be able to use thrusters just to launch ourselves in the air and just kind of stay aloft. And then I realized that really only works if you've got helium or hover blades, and that's what allows that kind of behavior, which is fine. It works to our favor that we still have a certain amount of gravity helping us to accomplish certain things. I'm putting 2 thrusters in the front. You'll see shortly the second one goes into place. Again, this is all armor core, all prisms. You know, every once in a while, like here, we put a temporary one in place, and then underneath, and then this is the final one, and then we take the temporary ones, and you can see everything is nice. We've got a nice clean, almost tailor-made location to mount this other thruster. There we go. 2 in the front, pushing down, so basically allowing us to lift upwards because of all the extra weight on the front for that frame that's holding the guns. And then from there, I want to extend another sort of armor core zigzag lightning bolt kind of shape to hold the legs. And you can see here, we go to place a leg, and it's interfering with the gun and the block the gun is sitting on, which is not bad. I mean, the whole idea of stopping and trying to put a leg on is to see, can we make it fit here? And if not, what do we need to change in order for that to happen? Using my dwindling supply of yellow blocks to give us a little bit of space back from the guns, ideally, so that we can, So now we take another look, and I think sometimes where people kind of get the sensation that they're not doing well enough, they can't do this, it's just not for them, is they encounter a situation like this and they think they should have a solution for it immediately, and it's not really the case. You can see I'm kind of moving the different angles around so that I can see where the intersection is, and you can see it was part of the leg swinging was just barely hitting the back of the railgun. So if I can get it one more block distance from the leg, between the leg and the gun, then it should fit, and that's really all we have to worry about. In this case, I'm choosing to do that by moving the gun forward one block. In order to move the gun forward one block without conflicting with the gun in front of it, we have to move it up one block. And it all goes together, and the reason I know this is because I just messed around with it until I figured out that was kind of the formula. It's not a cylinder. It's not, you know, that circle around the guns isn't marking a cylinder where nothing can come into contact with it. It's marking the base of a dome. And then, you know, as soon as that dome starts moving upwards, it starts moving inwards as well. So you can have this sort of 3D interaction with things and push them a little bit closer just by moving them up a block or two. So you can see, again, a temporary structure, still armor core, still using the prisms just so that it's there as the foundation. If it works, we can just add to it, as opposed to using a lot of temporary structures to test things, to get them into place, and then having to build the real structure around them after the fact. So it takes a little bit of fiddling and a little bit of figuring to kind of get a feel for where we want to put all this stuff, and then we get back to the gun. Now, I will say this while we're messing around trying to get them to fit, that one of the goals I set for myself as I was about halfway through recording this whole thing was to get into the habit of using the middle mouse button to select blocks from the environment where I'm working instead of constantly switching to the menu. So if you're watching this and you're saying, geez, why did you... Because I'm working on it. I promise I'm working on it, and I get better at it eventually throughout this process. So now, as you can see, legs on. Now, the reason why I wanted to put the legs where they are now and move the guns forward is because I didn't want this front structure extending too far forward ahead of the front legs. For some reason, I was thinking like front heavy, and I could just imagine this thing like tipping forward and just dragging the chin along the ground everywhere I went. Not exactly the ideal kind of scenario. I'm always the guy kind of shaking my head at these guys who show up in a match, and you know how quite often you spawn in your blocks, or your bot is several blocks above the ground, and then you just fall to the ground, and these guys, they fall, and as soon as they hit the ground, they're already on their ass. And it's just like, practice map, dude, that's all. So now we've got guns relocated, happy with the guns, happy with the legs. Now I want to look, I just see that little narrow thing holding up the guns in the back, and it creeps me out. It's just, it really bothers me to see that, because I know how easily it would be to pop that gun off the vehicle. Just one shot from an SMG on any one of those blocks and it's gone. So definitely investing the time to shore up this connection as much as we can. And again, it's about adding as many blocks as you can and adding them in a way that allows you to control the damage the spread of damage to at least some extent. You can see the way that block that the gun is sitting on is wedged, so it's basically sloping backwards on the underside. That's so that damage from the front end can't transfer directly to that block. That's the whole thing. You know, if someone shoots me from the back end and catches the back of this mount where the gun is, not going to be super hard to pop the gun off, but at the same time, I'm planning on having this vehicle positioned in certain ways whenever possible, so I'm building to that as the strengths. I have to pick one side. I can't armor the thing as a sphere, basically, and expect to get very far in terms of CPU allotments, but you get the idea. It's like we're trying to have it aimed forward, so we're going to protect it from damage coming from the front first, and then we'll think about damage coming from other sources. Now, what you'll see here is the sneaky bit. Instead of having this gun attached to the frame on the front of the vehicle, where if people are shooting at that frame and destroying it, that gun can pop off just because continued damage in that one area, the gun is actually going to connect to the vehicle from this little arm that we just built, leading to the frame around the thrusters. So you could do whatever you want to that front wedge-shaped structure and influence the gun on the tip of that wedge, but the guns on the sides, on the ends of it, on the back ends of it, are actually connected to the vehicle from another direction. And that's, again, playing to the whole armor core thing, just stacking prisms. You can go anywhere you want with a prism, you can make them change direction, whatever you want, and then have it route somewhere where nobody really expects. Now again, there's no such thing as invincible. There's still going to be weaknesses, there's still going to be really lucky shots that come my way from enemy bots that really make a mess of me in short order. But it's the SMG plinking away at you. It's the plasma guy who doesn't quite get the full spread on you, which is most of the time. They don't get all of them on you, all in a concentrated location all at once. When they do, it's very, very bad, no matter how well you built your bot, because it's just so much concentrated damage in one location. We can't really build to defend ourselves against that, but we can build to defend ourselves against the normal everyday lucky shot, guy not tap firing, whatever, and still also hold our own surprisingly well against the people who are tap firing at close range with lots of SMGs and their buddy with the plasma cannon blopping on us constantly every time he's reloaded. We're gonna die, but we're gonna irritate the hell out of them in the process. This part here that I'm building is just, again, talking about that situation where we're going to put ourselves in certain situations where we expect our vehicle to be receiving fire from certain locations, but we also want to be aware that the plasma bomber and the guy who starts shooting at us when we're clinging to a wall, he's going to be hitting the top of our bot. We don't want to lose these thrusters. We want these thrusters to hang around as long as possible. So we've got the rail guns attached to the little arms that are attached to the carriage that are holding the thrusters, and now we're building a detached shroud for the thrusters to give them a little bit extra protection against pretty much plasma fire is the one that's probably going to be the biggest issue. But anything that hits the top of the bot where someone's trying to aim for our guns and maybe a little bit of spray, you know, a little bit of shooting awry, so to speak. That's all this is for. Again, it's that layer of protection, and you're going to see this theme over and over and over again throughout the build. We have basic things that we need to have on the vehicle. We have protection for the way we want to drive it, and for protection for what we know we're going to experience, whether we like it or not. And here we're just changing the orientation of the prisms so that they don't spread damage across from one to the other, and so that they don't also spread damage down into the thrusters. They can only spread it forward or back. And that's a great little shroud. Covers the thrusters. You almost can't even see that the thrusters are there. It looks, I would say aesthetically, this bot looks kind of gnarly. I don't dislike the way it looks. I think there are things that we could do to make it look better if we have the CPU after the fact to make some adjustments. I don't think we will, not anytime soon. And now you're going to see the spine is actually itself completely custom made to suit a vehicle that's sloped forward. The spine isn't just flat across, it's actually on that kind of lightning bolt zigzag with the prisms and the armor core. At this point, all I'm really wanting to do is get the driver's seat in and get the second set of legs on so that we can take it into the practice course and get a feel for how this guy's going to work. Because it could be crap. It could be just absolute garbage. It could be dragging on the ground. There could be all kinds of things going wrong. And if we wait until the bot is done at the very end and all detailed and pretty looking, and then we take it in and we find out it's trash, wow, that would discourage me from trying to do this anymore. I can't imagine what it would do to someone who's just kind of get their feet wet with the whole creative building aspect. So there you see the back leg. You can see the front legs and then how far down the back leg is relative to those front legs. That's what I'm talking about. We're talking changing the elevation from front to back so that the vehicle is sloped forward, and then we get rid of all our temporary blocks now. They're just in the way. We've got enough of the bot built in place that we don't need them anymore, marking the middle of the garage bay. Now we need a platform upon which to build our driver's seat. And again, like anything else, I try to avoid making too many super temporary structures, like, oh, I'll just slap this together for now and then change it later. I try to build everything in small sections, but built in a way such that if it works, I'm happy with it. I can just leave it there. I don't have to come back and change blocks or, you know, change designs or anything, build around it. In this case, it's the back block that the driver's seat sits on that matters. The front one doesn't even connect to the driver's seat. So we put one of the best kinds of armor blocks underneath it that we had. Again, that little extra measure of protection. All the blocks around it are weaker than that one in the middle, so it doesn't really matter. If we lose the ones around the outsides, it doesn't matter what the middle one is. But now we've got this bot that's ready for a whirl. And you can see it's almost terrifying looking, but look at how the railguns to aim forward are actually lifting up. We don't need the gun depression in order to aim in any direction other than way, way, way down. Not so good, as very common with railguns, aiming to different sides. It's best whenever possible to aim forward relative to the way the vehicle is facing. But we've got a little bit of play there. And you can see we're flopping around, seeing how the thrusters do to help us extend our jump, and also testing the balance of the vehicle. With the thrusters fired, you notice after a few seconds in the air, it starts to tilt backwards. We'll keep that in mind. The guns work quickly. I couldn't help myself as soon as I saw the guns were loaded. There's a lag issue in the practice map. Whenever a new enemy bot spawns in, an AI bot, there's a lag thing, and also with the firing of the rail guns, actually, it causes like a 1 second stutter. And of course leads to a miss. So one of the things I noticed is the bot seems to turn a little bit more slowly than the spider did, and I'm not sure if that's because of the mass on the front end. It's just having a hard time negotiating it. If I'm moving backwards, I can turn quite quickly. I just did a mid-air headbutt, no damage to the enemy vehicle, in case you're wondering. This guy's shooting at me and I'm like, damn it. That's why I shouldn't have shot at the other guys, because what I want to do is get up this ridge and see how the bot performs when it's peeking over. And it takes a little bit of wiggling to kind of get into position. You see we're obviously in a bad angle, but we come up like this, and now just the tops of our legs are sticking up. We've got a good line on that guy, basically straight across. And this guy, he's dead. But mostly, take a look at what's sticking up over the ridge and what's down below. So the driver's seat is almost completely under the ridge line. Most of the legs are under the ridge line. It's just that big, bulky, heavily armored front of the vehicle that has the guns on it that's sticking up and over. And that's exactly what we're going for. So the next episode, we're going to start filling in some more of the details. We need some more thrusters. We need better protection. And we need to kind of get a better sense of how we're going to finish off the outside of the vehicle. So if you want to be notified when I add that video, you can subscribe to my channel or follow me on the social network stuff. Links for those are in the information section below the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.